This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. We appreciate you joining us. I am joined now by John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. John, good to have you with us. Thank you for being here.
Good to be asked. Good to be with you.
The legislative session ends, and it was one for the ages. I'm going to rattle off a few things that happened in the legislative session. A used car tax expansion, tax forgiveness for unemployment benefits, adding a computer science credit for high school graduation, raising median teacher pay, reforming law enforcement practices, and passing a hate crimes law. It was a good session, wasn't it?
Did you get that from the governor's office or from the legislative leadership? Actually, I've been in social media discussions with leading Senator Dismang, who's been trying to tell me that despite my angst over a few things that got all the attention, good work got done, and it did. And he provided a litany of small, focused measures that help some people. The kinds of things that groups or individuals come up with and go to a legislator and get passed. The governor got most of what he wanted. You can say he got a hate crimes bill on paper, if not what he wanted. So yeah, I mean, beneath the headlines about a considerable measure of madness going on out there about this resistance to the federal government, the basic competent work of getting some worthy pieces of legislation. It happened as usual. It always happens in legislative sessions. A lot of good, small, focused things get done, and they did this time. It was no exception.
Well, let's talk about the headlines, because this session is going to be remembered for a lot of the negative headlines that it generated. Gun laws pushing back on the federal government, as you alluded to, abortion, transgender restrictions, election law revisions, some academic meddling. Those are off the top of my head right there. These are all conservative positions, and we have overwhelming Republican conservative supermajorities in the legislature. Are the legislators not just reflecting their constituents in these issues?
Well, of course they are. They're reflecting the constituents most that they hear from most, and the loudest activity out there in rural Arkansas especially is a rather extreme form of conservatism, fueled by Trump, fueled by right-wing media, resentful at new levels, bitterly resentful at new levels of resentment toward anything with which they disagree. And those folks have been waiting for a long time, and they got their legislators' ear, and the legislators, Republican legislators, were worried, many, that if they don't oblige them, they will be defeated in a primary. And then some, I'd say 15, 20, 25% of those legislators actually are as conservative as those right-wing constituents who are driving the issues are. So, yeah, I'm not arguing that they're not representing their people. I'm arguing that sometimes you got to rise above the lowest common denominator, and you have to legislate in ways that are responsible rather than purely responsive. And you know, when you essentially imitate the Civil War, and you imitate the racial desegregation crisis in the South by saying we're not going to do what the federal government says, we're going to do our own thing down here in Arkansas and defy federal government law and the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution, you have gone past responsiveness into irresponsibility. So that's what's happened, and that's the dynamic that's caused what we've seen.
All right, we will see the legislature come back to do congressional redistricting. In the meantime, we will also see over the next several months, when the census data becomes available, legislative redistricting. And what is likely to happen is there will be new seats with Republicans in charge of the district lines. You're going to see them drawn favorably for Republicans, as you would expect. Some purple seats are going to get a little bit redder as well. So there's a good chance that Republicans make gains in 2022 at the legislative level. Won't the spin be we're being rewarded for our conservative agenda in 2021 with more seats versus the math that just says it happens to be on your side and you're in charge.
Yeah, I have no doubt that this is good politics for these legislators, and that most of them will be back and in stronger positions based on the redistricting you cite, and the fact that nothing will go horribly wrong thanks to the courts. I mean, I think that if the courts just throw out a couple of these most outrageously, blatantly unconstitutional bills, and these legislators can just say, well, that's the federal courts that we hate. That's who we're in Cold War with, is the federal government. We did what we could. I have no doubt that the changing this dynamic in a state that is sort of population static and attitudinally static is a long-term thing. Republicans waited a long, long time to be able to draw their own districts. So it takes, in Arkansas especially, things don't happen quickly. And that's just where we are. And it's going to get worse after the next governor's race, because the moderation and practicality's only hope in this current Arkansas environment is that the Republican governor, and we will have a Republican governor, will have some government expertise and some practicality and responsibility about it. We have been blessed by that over these years with Asa Hutchinson, considering relative to the environment surrounding him. And that's not likely to hold as we move into the next cycle after he is term limited. So the whole thing that we're watching and that I'm analyzing, it's embedded for a while, I believe, and likely to actually intensify.
So if you're saying a Republican's going to be the next governor, it's either going to be Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. Odds on favorite right now would be that it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She continues her national tour of running for Arkansas governor. At this point, is she running for governor of Arkansas, or is she running for president in 2024?
Oh, man. She's running to impose, she's running to own the liberals for the benefit of her creator, Donald Trump, any way she can. And governor of Arkansas is a nice place to create a little remote outpost for the next insurrection. And that's what she's, that's what she's about. You follow her on Twitter, as I do. I watch it closely because that's the only way I'm going to hear from her. She only gets inspired to tweet after federal issues arise. I mean, she was all over Joe Biden's speech the other night. Why the socialists are coming for us? Like I told you, governors will be our last line of defense. I don't know exactly what that means. If that's a kind of advancement of a civil war, I don't really know. And Tim Scott gave a great speech, and Biden gave a horrible speech. Everything is commented on in a national context, which is purely tactical because she is a very hardened political operative, and she knows that the same folks who drove these legislators to do these bills in this session are the ones who will be nominating her and electing her governor. You told me about this buzz or little rumor going on nationwide that she's even getting mentioned, and there may be some forthcoming publicity on this. You want to tell me again? So I mean, I find it hard to believe, but tell me one more time here on the air before
the national press has reached out to me. I've talked to a couple of national reporters who have asked if I know anything about Sarah Huckabee Sanders potentially being talked about for a 2024 presidential run. Also, Asa Hutchinson and Tom Cotton from Arkansas names are floated as well. I've not heard that rumor locally about Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but all of that to say, she's running a campaign that seems geared towards running for president.
Well, she wouldn't have to change any of her tweets to just say it's president, not governor. She wouldn't have to change anything that she's doing. She's, I find we already had gotten some national attention for this oddness of producing a president and then producing Mike Huckabee, who ran well for president, and Wesley Clark, who ran for president. And now, 2024, we got two people, Asa and Tom Cotton. We may as well have three. If Sarah wants to interrupt her 4-year governor's term and run for president, maybe it would be good to have her out of the state doing that. So I hope she does that.
All right.
It
We had
might be,
a
it
Bill
might be for
Clinton
the best.
ran for president too one time, a long time
Well,
ago.
he became president. That's what I thought I meant to say that. We elected one from here, but maybe I didn't.
All
Yeah, I
right.
know about Bill Clinton.
Nationally, President Joe Biden gave his first State of the Union speech earlier this week, a laundry list of policy objectives with the razor thin margins that we have in Congress and the Senate, basically essentially a tie in Congress. The House of Representatives, not much Democratic advantage. Is anything going to get done on this list?
No, in my opinion, no. I should qualify that or introduce that by saying that I am increasingly told by younger liberal people that I'm just an old fuddy-duddy stuck in the past, stuck in the Reagan apologetic tactics of Bill Clinton, who always tried to finesse liberalism and appeal to the center, and then Obama, who comes along and thinks he can work with Republicans and was instructed that about his naivete when Mitch McConnell said his only goal in life was to beat him. So there is this school of thought, and it apparently has influenced Biden, that enough of that. Let's just put out there what we believe in. Let's worry about our base the way the Republican legislators in Arkansas are worried about their base. Let's stand for it. Let's advocate it. There is as much chance that we can survive in the midterms on that as there is by trying to work with Republicans and getting double crossed with them in hopes of holding seats and gaining seats so that someday later we might do all that we want to do. I think that's what's going on. I hold instead with James Carville, who on Tuesday in an interview said, with 50 senators, and that's all you've got, the Democrats cannot be more liberal than Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is the moderate to center right Democratic senator from West Virginia, a Trump state much like Arkansas. I agree with Carville. That's what you've got to do. Biden has been sold on this idea on economic issues, not cultural ones, but on economic issues. We're going to be as liberal as Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden's economic plan is Bernie Sanders' economic plan, and they're going for it. Your question was, will any of it pass? Heck no. Heck no. I mean, not enough votes. And the Democrats have people like Manchin and Sinema and Tester in Montana who have to worry about these brands of over-the-top liberalism, branding of over-the-top liberalism. So I don't think so. And this will all be answered, Roby, in November of 2022 in the midterms. Let's look up the day after the midterms in 2022 and see if the Democrats still hold the Senate and if any of Biden's family plan proposals, worthy though I find them, have become law. We'll see on that day.
All right. John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. As always, thank you.
Thank you, Roby. See you later.
All right. We're back with more right after this word from our sponsors.